I do have an Instagram account. I post some updates there.
So the results of my biopsy are back. It's not good news.
I started having pretty significant gastritis symptoms, like wake up in the middle of the night, sort of stabbing pain at the bottom of my sternum. So I did go to my GP, and at first we thought maybe I was experiencing long COVID, but his dad is actually a GI specialist. And so he was like, go see my father, at his practice locally and do a full GI workup. And so did the whole endoscopy, colonoscopy thing. They biopsied a bunch. They did identify that I had an ulcer, was told to come back in 3 months. Again, they said, the ulcer looks like it's healing. And they said, come back again in 3 months, but they biopsied a bunch. I think they took something like 8 to 12 tissue samples or something. Everything came back fine. So then when I went in June,
I was told by the doctor as I was coming out of anesthesia that they located a tumor in my stomach. They said they'd be fast tracking the results of the biopsy.
3 days later, I'd been in New York City. And as I was making my way back to the train, noticed that my doctor had been trying to get in touch with me all day. So I finally connected with him while I was standing at Grand Central Station and sort of heard those words, no one ever wants to hear, I'm so sorry, Kiersten, but you have cancer. I did start at a local cancer center. Folks were sort of like, this is an aggressive and invasive and unusual enough of a situation that you should go to a top tier cancer center. So I did end up going to a place that's, really well known and renowned, and extremely lucky that I got paired with a surgeon who was doing this type of research on my type of cancer. So the moment I walked into the cancer center where I am today, I just felt really taken care of. The wraparound services that I've received, from the social worker to nutritionist, have been really attentive and helpful and supportive.
I'm all prepped for surgery, and when I wake up, I will have less of my stomach.
I had about 25% of my stomach removed, and as well as the tumor and 40 lymph nodes. And that was a challenge, and I'm still learning how to eat, but I'm also a person who's been in recovery from an eating disorder for a long time. And so it's been a challenge to figure out how to eat small meals and how to restrict, which is something that I worked really hard to figure out how not to do. And I feel like I'm still figuring out that rhythm several months after my surgery, how to make sure, and of course, with the addition of this poison that's going through my veins, that has been an interesting journey.
I found out after my surgery that my cancer had moved into my lymph nodes, which meant that I would have to do chemotherapy. I was initially staged at 1B before my surgery, but after my surgery, when metastatic carcinoma was detected in 4 of my removed lymph nodes, I was upstaged to 2B.
I was given 2 options of courses of treatment. The one that I chose is, from what I understand, slightly more aggressive, slightly more toxic, potentially. Involves an infusion every 3 weeks and 2 weeks of daily pills.
This has been harder than pretty much anything else that I've dealt with in my life.
And then a week off. And I'm talking to you during my week off. The first cycle was pretty tough. The side effects that I've experienced, my oncologist was sort of like, you may be one of those unlucky people who just sort of checks the boxes of every side effect. And of course, it's cumulative throughout treatment. So my second cycle was a little bit more challenging. The neuropathy and the cold sensitivity I've been experiencing, and then GI upset. It feels really unfair to be diagnosed with stomach cancer and then have stomach problems because of the treatment. Quite frankly, today is one of the best days that I've had in the last almost 6 weeks. And I'm feeling grateful for those moments when I feel more myself. It's a double-edged sword, right? It's been really helpful to understand more about my specific diagnosis as we've gained more details about the diagnosis, but it's also been scary the more that we understand about this and the recurrence rates and options. It's been a little bit terrifying at times. I've been a little angry and frustrated that there aren't more courses of action for folks with stomach cancer. It feels like anywhere on the GI tube, it's all the same approach in many ways. And that's been frustrating to me. It feels like it's something that's happening with enough frequency to folks that we should know more by this point. And of course, cancer is one of the most well-researched things, well-funded things, but stomach cancer I didn't realize how little we knew about it. One of the things that I was just so delighted by when I did initial intake forms, they actually had a place for me to identify in the intake forms as non-binary, and had a place for me to share that I use both she, her, hers, and they, them, theirs pronouns. And then I was just misgreened, throughout, or Mrs. and ladied and womaned throughout the entire week that I spent in the hospital. And that was a challenge. And I'm accustomed in my day-to-day work to be sharing or correcting people politely. I have the energy typically to do that and talk about my gender. I didn't have any energy to do that. And I felt like I didn't want to really get into that conversation. It would have been helpful if I knew that the folks that were treating me had actually read those forms. My main hope is that we have more knowledge really soon about stomach cancer and what to do to make sure that people can live. And the other hope I have, I think, as a non-binary person, as a queer person, is that I hope that the training and awareness that has grown so much around LGBTQI issues is less theoretical and more practical in the future, that theory is actually put into practice. And yeah, I hope that I get to live a long, healthy life and am able to share my story with other folks to help raise awareness about what is a very unfortunate diagnosis. It sounds so cliche in some ways, but I think really trying to stay as positive as possible and find the joy in the small moments that happen throughout your day, because our body is so affected by the mental processes that we go through every day. And I found that the more positive I can stay, the better I feel. And I would just want to hug that person, truly. This is a really difficult thing to go through.